Furnishings.
The time now is 8:17. A live look out over the Grand Strand is a nice calm start. Temperatures are in the lower 80s. We already have some swimmers out. Winds are getting breezy. 10 miles per hour is nothing crazy, but we are going to have some gusts around 20 to 25. And the beach conditions may not look bad, but we have a high rip current risk, a high longshore current. And the waves are going to be more rough for today as well. And we're not going to see any improvements to the beach forecast, honestly, probably for the next 4 to 5 days, because they're going to be high for today and tomorrow. And then we're going to have to deal with potentially a tropical system off of our coast, which is going to increase the waves and the rip current risk as well. We're nice and dry right now, but again, we are expecting those storms to develop in the coming hours. Right now, the southeast is mostly calm. Some storms across the Florida Panhandle and a little bit of some isolated pop-ups. But again, we're waiting until the mid-afternoon to kind of see that explosion of activity like we've had for the past couple of days. Main headlines is those storms, a couple of them on the strong to severe side. It is still going to be hot for today, just not as hot as yesterday. That heat index in Myrtle Beach was 113, so it's not going to feel that bad, only around 100. So some improvements, and we're going to see those temperatures fall into the 80s for the coming days, mainly because it's going to be overcast and a little bit soggy, especially if Debbie forms and rides up the coast. The Futurecast has a couple of pop-ups closer to the coast during the early afternoon, kind of calm during the mid-afternoon. It's the late afternoon and evening that we're going to have that higher threat for severe weather. It is not for the immediate coast. It's for the PD and even more elevated along the border belt. It's just a wind threat. Some small hail is going to be possible. Tornadoes are not anticipated by any means, but we could see a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings similar to yesterday. So again, that slight risk is for northern Marlborough County, portions of Dillon, all of Laurinburg, and just outside of Lumberton. So for northern Robeson County, 15% chance of seeing a 60-mile-per-hour wind gust, only a 5% in that marginal risk area. And then for Sunday, more storms in the forecast. A calm start to the morning, a little bit of some showers. The thunderstorms holding off until the afternoon. It does seem like Sunday will have better coverage for the storms, so a soggier day tomorrow than today. And we have that sunshine out there right now, so that's what we can look forward to. Just have to keep an eye on the sky during the afternoon today. And then for Monday, a little bit of a cloudier start, and we could begin to see those outer rain bands come in for Monday by the time we get to the later part of the day. But we'll have more details on the tropics coming up in just a bit. The highs for today, upper 80s to mid 90s, so that's pretty normal for this time of year. Again, it just won't feel as hot. The lows for tonight will be staying in the mid to upper 70s. Again, that beach forecast is not ideal for today. A southwest wind and gusty at 15 to 20. The wave forecast is for 2 to 5 foot waves, which is much higher than normal, and normal is a 3-foot wave. The high rip current risk means we need to be mindful and always swim near a lifeguard. Have a look at your 7-day forecast coming up. Good morning, Gracie. Before we see any impacts to the Carolinas, this system first has to make landfall in Florida. Now, again, this is barely a tropical depression at the moment, and winds are around 30 miles per hour, which is really not a big story. But once it's over open water, we are going to see that development, and that's why we're already seeing tropical storm watches and warnings, and even a hurricane watch is in effect right now. The current track is having this make landfall along the Big Bend, so north of Tampa, around the Tallahassee, and even a little bit more to the east, crossing and heading northeast. And then that's where we see the uncertainty in the track when it's heading northeast. Is it heading into the interior of the Carolinas, up the coast, or out to sea? And all of those have very different impacts. However, most of the spaghetti plots are agreeing this is going to be paralleling the coast. So we will see some impacts here, but we are still about 3 days away from that. So again, this is what the system currently looks like. The pressure is still very high, a little bit lower than yesterday, so it is organizing slightly, and it's moving pretty fast right now at 16 miles per hour, but that is going to be slowing down, and that's why we're going to see a big impact in terms of rainfall to the coast. But we're good right now. We have a severe threat we have to talk about for today before we even discuss the tropics. So multiple things to hit on today. The temperatures right now, 78 in Florence, 83 for the beach, and it's nice and dry right now, and it's cooler than yesterday. However, we're expecting those storms similar to yesterday, firing up during the afternoon. By lunchtime, 87 at the beach and 88 for inland.
Hannah Ronner with Viper 13 real-time radar, sponsored by J&K Home Furnishings.
At 7:45, a live look over downtown Florence. A mostly sunny start. Temperatures are already in the mid-70s, and it will still be a hot day with temperatures climbing around 94, 95 degrees. But we do not have the heat advisory in effect that we've had for the past couple of days, so it'll still feel like 100 to 103. But again, that heat index value not high enough to get the heat advisory from the National Weather Service. Viper 13 real-time radar has been dry for the past several hours, and that will change once we get to the afternoon. Very similar conditions expected that we saw on Thursday and in Friday, with a couple of those really intense thunderstorms forming along the sea breeze front, but also as a cold front gets a little bit closer, we're seeing the thunderstorms form down to the south, and they do have a little bit of an eastward component to them. So we're going to see those storms fire up closer to the coast and then transition to inland. That cold front is not going to move through. We are not going to see any real hit to temperatures. The main reason temperatures will be going down is because it is going to be more overcast, so that'll hinder temperatures from rising. And also it is going to be very stormy in the coming days. First from just generic summertime weather with the cold front approaching, then from soon to be Debbie, which has not formed. It is still a tropical depression currently. So our futurecast, we saw a little bit of a moisture stream closer to the coast during the early afternoon. Again, most of the day is still relatively dry. That sunshine will be peeking out. But then the late afternoon and early evening time, this is going to be where our severe threat primarily is. We have a marginal threat for the PD, a slight risk along the border belt, which is a 15% chance of seeing a form of severe weather, whether that's large hail, the gusty winds, and we don't have that tornado threat for today. So that is going to be the good news. But we had some very intense thunderstorms over the past couple of days, so just expect the same story for today. So there's that severe outlook. The yellow, slight risk for northern Marlborough County, technically even portions of Dillon. Most of the PD, though, is under the level 1 risk, in general thunderstorms popping up closer to the coast. Beyond that, for Sunday, we can expect more of the same, kind of a calm start to the morning, and then seeing those afternoon thunderstorms fire up. A little bit more coverage for storms expected on Sunday. And then for Monday, especially as we get closer to the evening, we're going to be watching for the outer rain bands from Debbie. That's assuming that it follows model guidance at the moment, which is having the center offshore. Now, this could be pushed inland, in which case we would see much less impacts to the Carolinas. The highs for today, 88 to 94, so similar temperatures for this time of year, but again, it won't feel as hot. Temperatures for tonight will be staying in the mid-70s. Now, the beach forecast is another story. It's going to be gusty. Look at the wave forecast at 2 to 5 foot waves. The normal is a 3-foot wave. We also have a high longshore current and a high rip current risk. So it is not the best water quality for your beaches today, but it is going to be nice and sunny. So people will be trying to cool off there, but you have to be mindful and you have to swim near a lifeguard for today. And that rip current risk is going to be like that for the next several days. Your 7-day forecast now. Temperatures will be in the mid-80s for Sunday and Monday. More overcast conditions on the way for Tuesday and Wednesday, likely because Debbie is going to be in the vicinity, so we'll be dealing with that. And we could see a lot of rain with this system, and that is what I'm most concerned about, mainly because it is just going to move very slow. And that is going to be a big problem if the center stays over water, because it'll maintain its strength. If it's inland, it's going to be disrupting all that circulation. So that's one possibility, but some of the rainfall forecasts are going over a foot of rain.
Wow.
And that is over the course of 3 days, but that would definitely overwhelm some rivers in the area.
Expect in the coming days here in the Carolinas. Hannah?
So this area is still highly disorganized. It's very weak. Winds are only sustained around 30, 35 miles per hour. We are waiting for an update from the National Hurricane Center. That will be dropping around 8 o'clock, so we have to wait about 30 more minutes. But it was located over land, and obviously that's not going to be good for any development. So the longer it's over land, the weaker we can expect this system to be. However, the Gulf of Mexico is very warm. Ocean temperatures are 86, 87 degrees, so we are expecting it to eventually intensify, entering the Gulf of Mexico later this afternoon, eventually organizing into a tropical storm, and likely a pretty strong tropical storm. Winds expected to be sustained at 70 miles per hour before making landfall Sunday night into early Monday morning near the Big Bend of Florida. Now from there, we're going to see this cone get much wider, which is indicating a certain level of uncertainty, because if this continues to track over land, this this is not going to be as big of a story here in the Carolinas. We're still going to have a small tornado threat. We're going to get the wind and we're going to have some rain. But if this tracks right along the coast, we're going to see much more impacts to coastal regions, whether that's in terms of rip currents, big waves, beach erosion, even some storm surge will be possible, and the center of circulation would still be over open water, which would allow it to maintain its strength. So this is where most of the spaghetti plots are putting the center of circulation, so right along the coast, making heavy rain the highest threat by far, just because it is expected to stall out, meaning we're going to be dealing with rain for several days. The storm surge and beach erosion is a high risk as well. The wind, again, this is going to be a tropical storm, so not hurricane force winds, but since it is mostly going to be located offshore, the tornado threat is lower, but it's not zero. Gracie?
Thanks, Hannah. Remember, for your most accurate
With Viper 13 real-time radar, sponsored by J&K Home Furnishings.
The time now is 7:17 on your Saturday morning, and it is a slower beach day start at least, but again, it's early in the morning and beach conditions may not look too bad at the moment, but they are going to be deteriorating over the coming days as we're expecting soon-to-be Tropical Storm Debbie to be bringing some impacts. High rip current risk already in effect for today. It's nice and sunny right now. The temperature's up to 80, but a couple of storms are expected to be rolling through, especially during the mid-afternoon and the first part of the evening, but nothing going on just yet on Viper 13 real-time radar. It has been nice and dry for the past several hours, so that's the good news right now. But overall, we are expecting this cold front to increase moisture for today and tomorrow, and then the source of the rain for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and even possibly on Thursday is all going to be tropical moisture from the system expected to hit Florida tomorrow night and early tomorrow morning. The main headlines: scattered storms for this afternoon. It is still technically a hot day. Temperatures will be seasonal, but it's still in the mid-90s. The heat index is not going to be as brutal as previous days, so we do not have the heat advisory in effect. And then the other headline has to be on the tropics, but we do have to get past the threat of severe weather for today. So we're seeing the first little bit of storms a little bit closer to the coast, and then it's going to be these cells that look like this that have the threat for getting that severe thunderstorm warning. We had a couple of them yesterday. We had one on Thursday, so expect more of the same for today. We could see some large hail, gusty winds, and of course a lot of lightning and very intense downpours. So this is going to be your primary threat late afternoon and early evening, and the highest threat is going to be along the border belt. Once we lose the heat of the day, these storms are going to be kind of taming themselves and calming down across the area. So we do not have to be concerned here at the coast, but notice that the PD has the marginal risk for severe weather, and portions of the border belt and Marlborough County have the slight risk, 15% chance of seeing a severe thunderstorm across the area. Where wind is the only concern, we do not have that tornado outlook for today. So that is going to be the good news there. Looking ahead to Sunday morning, pretty calm start, not much going on, a little bit of cloud cover, a little bit of rain with, again, the heavier downpours and thunderstorms waiting until the afternoon to occur. And then if we push this a little bit further, a calm start for Monday, cloudy conditions in place, but as we get a little bit later into the afternoon, Debbie and the center of circulation expected to be getting a little bit closer to South Carolina, so likely we're already funneling moisture into the Carolinas. The rain could be beginning as soon as Monday night. A look at Tuesday morning, and notice how slow this system is moving. This is why this is potentially going to be a large headache, is because of the rainfall totals and flooding that could result from this system. We're looking at Wednesday, so already around for 36 hours, and the system is still off the coast. This could lead to widespread beach erosion as well. More details will be coming up. Your highs for today, upper 80s and mid 90s in Florence. Gracie?
Thanks, Hannah. Well, they call it